Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to have a video talking about Kakwa Provincial Park. The topic will be preparation for doing a trip like this. I've made some other videos talking about the park itself and difficulty getting there and all kinds of stuff. And so you'll see here, looking on this main page, this is the BC Park website for Kakwa Provincial Park. And so we're going to go through a number of tips regarding some things that you can do to prepare to have a really great trip. I just went through this whole process. I spent, I'm going to say, maybe 3 or 4 months preparing for this trip. It's a very remote backcountry area. It's gorgeous. So much to do, so much to see there, but it's not easy to get to. And because of that, you don't have a lot of information online about what to expect, maybe compared to some other more popular sites. So let's get into it. So number one, you probably want to visit this website, the BC Parks Kakwa Provincial Park website, because it's not always the most up-to-date website, but you'll see here there are some important bulletins, such as, they talk about maintenance happening to the cabin there. And you can see here it was closed for a week in July. And so I had mentioned this on the Great Divide Trail chat group on Facebook in case anyone was thinking they were going to be able to use the cabin for that week and they would have to camp there instead. So, don't plan to go for a week when they're doing maintenance on the cabin or something like that. It's just going to not be for as pleasant of a time. And things like porcupines, lots of porcupines there. I mean, that's what Kakwa means in the native tongue, natives. And so the road condition, it's also pretty hard to get to. We're going to get into all of that. So check out this website. It's going to give you some info. If you click down here on the view photo gallery, it's going to wow you. It's going to make you want to go even more. But and just know, when you do search for this park online, there are 2 Kakwa parks. And what I mean by that is, I'll quickly jump over here. No, where's my map? So the park actually borders British Columbia and Alberta. And so Kakwa Provincial Park, this area highlighted here, is in BC. And to the east of that, there's Kakwa Wildland Provincial Park. And that's a different park. It's in Alberta. It borders up to this one, but they are 2 separate things, so just be aware of that. Another great resource, and I have this in dark mode, but that's why it's kind of hard to read the font, but this is an excellent website from John Vogt, and he is a person who's been a volunteer park host for, I think, at least 10 years or more. Him and Bill as well, and their wives, they've been hosting at this park for a long time, and we actually met Bill and Bev, his wife, when we went this year. But I also spoke to John a number of times before we went on this trip. He lives in the Prince George area, and he's put together this website, and just very great information, okay? Things like park access up here. You hover on the menu, you get road access. That's the Walker Creek Forest Service Road. You get trail access. So if I click on this, you're going to see some pictures of when he went years ago. I'm going to show you some more up-to-date pictures, but lots of great information here. A map of the park. If you click on this destinations area, all the top places to hike there. Talking about how long the hike is and things to watch out for. Very good information. So you definitely want to go to kakwa.jjv.ca to get to this website, and it's a really good resource. And so on that note as well, I think on this overview page where they talk about all these different hikes, I believe John's son Rob created a map. It's like a PDF map of the area with all the different trails. Very useful, that map. But if you scroll down here, you also say, you'll see you can send questions to John, contact him down here. And they do have GPS files for all the hikes, or at least most of them. and you're going to do a lot of route finding out here. So not all the trails are, just follow a nice worn path. So you probably want to get some of those GPS trails, and that's basically what I've done here and more. I've imported into my Gaia GPS account, and I put my phone in offline mode. I brought some extra equipment like these nice battery backup units. That's a 10,000 milliamp hour. This one was especially useful. I got this on Amazon. This is a 25,000 milliamp hour, and if you look on the ports, if I can just show that there, you'll see there's 2 USB charging ports on each side, so you can charge 2 devices at once, and the 2 ports in the middle are for charging up this battery. So it does not charge USB-C by default, but you can use adapters and whatnot. But you definitely want to bring battery packs so that you can charge up your emergency communication device. I have an inreach mini that I brought. You definitely want to bring one of those out there. There's no service, even just going down the logging road and whatnot. So we'll get into that, into preparation. I'm kind of jumping ahead here. So just to kind of show this park, if I kind of zoom out here, this would be Highway 16 down here on the screen. And Walker Creek Forest Service Road starts right here. And you just need to prepare yourself. That's what this video is all about. You need to prepare for how you're going to get as close to the beginning of your hike as possible. So just to show on this map, when you follow Walker Creek coming down here, this is about 35 kilometers or something by the time you hit the junction of McGregor River here. And then shortly after that, I've tried to mark some waypoints here on this GPS file. And you can ask me for that if you want, or I might put a link in the description of this video. But I have waypoints, like I think this first one here was the landslide. Yeah, there's a big landslide on the road right here. You have to drive around it. And then down over here, what is this one? A big sinkhole in the road. You have to watch out for that. And then down here further, we have a big beaver pond that you have to drive through. So definitely want, probably 4x4. In dry weather conditions, you probably could take a 2-wheel drive, but I honestly wouldn't risk it. It just gets really bad after this point. And coming down here, hopefully in the pictures and videos, I think I made another video about the road conditions. They're just really not too good. So what else do I have down here? I think there's a big 2 sinkholes over here. And I think one of these was like a big drop in the road. I don't know if I have to zoom in to get the right one. Yeah, this one here was, let's see if I click on that properly. Yeah, a big drop in the road, like a 1.5 to 2 foot drop in the road there. And down here, big sinkholes on both sides of the road if you don't have high clearance. If it's wet weather, most definitely you'll probably get stuck there. So the road, the drive in from the highway to the McGregor River probably takes you about an hour on average. I've driven this, 3-4 times now. So that's about an hour to drive that 35 kilometers. And then the other, 40 kilometers here is going to take you 2 hours. So 3 hours from the highway to the Bastille Bridge, and that's minimum. You can't go faster. There's too many potholes and terrible road condition. This will take you 2 hours. Pretty much a guarantee. So you might be able to shave it to 2 hours, 2.5 hours if everything's really dry and everything goes great, but basically 3 hours. And down here is where you cross the Bastille Bridge. That's what this is here. And so once you get to this point, I'm getting into these details. I've talked about this in other videos, but I'll just quickly summarize this. Because I guess there's still some things you should do to prepare. Once you cross this bridge, depending on conditions for that year, the rest of this way, there could be tons of tree fall here, and you may not be able to go further. When we came in May, we were the first ones through. could not get through here. You need to bring a chainsaw or something. You're going to spend a while to cut through that. We also had to cut through the road on the Walker Creek Forest Road. There's a lot of deadfall and things that we had to clear, being the first ones coming down this road in May. So just know that. Bring shovels, bring a chainsaw. You don't know if someone else has come before you in a vehicle. So anyway, this is the Bastille Bridge here. For us, we drove, I believe we drove like to this point right here. And we parked here, and basically the trail just kind of disappeared into the river here. And yeah, it was either here or it was over here. I don't remember 100%. So anyway, the furthest you're going to be able to get is maybe 1.5 kilometers past the Bastille Bridge if it's a good year. But I will say you got to be careful because you want to find a safe place to park. When I say that, I'm going to show you some pictures here. And people who have parked sort of on a sandbar or in an area that looked dry, and depending on how long you're going to be there, you could get into trouble. Let's see, is this one. So here's a picture of some hunters who, what year was this? This was a number of years back. This was back in 2010. So 11 years ago. These guys parked their trucks on a sandbar or something. And when they came back in their boat, they're like, uh-oh, that's not good. And that's the kind of thing you're going to see in this area. When we went on one of the weekends to scope things out, we came in, the weekend was very hot. It was over 30 degrees Celsius outside. It was a heat wave warning for our area of British Columbia. And we came in on a Friday, we camped that night, and we left Saturday night. And when we came back, the river had risen a number of feet. And there were places that suddenly had waterfalls that didn't have waterfalls on the way in. So this river can really escalate, and you can get yourself into trouble if you're not prepared. So watch where you park. We parked at an area that was pretty high off the river. Now, is that safe enough to withstand, what did these guys say here? The river went up 8 feet in 12 hours. 8 feet. So make sure when you find a place to park, you account for the fact that the river could raise quite a bit in a short period of time. So you find a safe place to park. And the other thing you're going to need to do, like it says here on John's website, and it even talks about in the main park area, road access. You need some kind of chicken wire to wrap around your vehicle. Yes, you need it. Don't ignore this. When we left, we did see a truck that was parked there from Alberta, and they did not wrap their truck in this wire. I can say across Highway 16 to the south, someone a few weekends ago was hiking up there, and they did put this wire around, but they didn't do a good job, and the Porcupines climbed up the wire and got into their wheels, and they had to get their truck towed. You really don't want to do that here. I don't even know if a tow truck is going to come down this road to get you. It's that bad. So make sure you bring the right equipment. Make sure you prepare for this properly. Bring chicken wire. Hopefully I'll show you guys pictures of that at some point when I go through the photo album. So when you plan for your trip, pick the right time of year. For us, we went in May, we went in June, and after talking with different people, the best time to go to Kakwa in general is about the first week of August. And we definitely saw that because the earlier you go in the year, the creeks are much higher, much faster flowing. It's much more difficult to get around, and to get good weather and lower depth of the creeks and whatnot, first week of August and onward is a good time frame. Once you get into September, it could be dangerous because there's been many reports of snow storms and getting snowed in and stuff like that. So first week of August generally is a good time. So pick your season, time of year right. Check the road conditions. Try to plan for a time when you know the weather's going to be good. I'll give an example. Let's say you're planning on going in on a Thursday, and a week ahead or 3 days ahead, you see that it's going to be like heavy rain on that day, and you see that the next day it's not going to be heavy rain. I would pick the day where it's not going to be heavy rain. If you have to, you have to, but if you can avoid bad weather, I would do that. So check the road condition as well. Don't just assume that you're going to be able to get in. I would honestly drive in once with your truck. You can do it on a day's trip if you live in Prince George or Jasper. It's roughly 2 hours to drive to the Walker Creek Forest Service Road, and then 3 hours to get to the Bastille Bridge. Drive down that road, get to know what it's like, especially for the year that you go. Every year the condition changes, could change quite a bit. There's been some years where certain bridges washed right out. Once upon a time, the Buchanan Bridge was there. It's no longer there. You'll see it parked on the side of the trail of the GDT because it got washed out. So always, at least look online and see if someone's gone through that year. Probably one of the best places would be to get some trip reports from the Great Divide Trail. See if I can find that website. So greatdividetrail.com. If you go under trip planning resources and trail and road conditions, each year they give some updates. You'll see this year, if I click on August 2021, some very important information. Some places like Mount Robson. That weekend that I went hiking with my friend when we were checking out the Kakwa area, Mount Robson got flooded. That hot heat wave, it completely caused Mount Robson glaciers and whatnot to melt quickly and washed out bridges, took out trails, and to the creation of this video, which is getting past the middle of August, Mount Robson's been closed for like 2 months, and it's closed for the rest of the year. A lot of damage has been done due to flooding. Now, that has not happened thus far on Walker Creek Forest Service Road. Been there enough times this year to know that at this point, unless there's heavy rains, it's probably going to be fine for this year. But you should check yourself. So road condition check. I would check it at least once before you do it, and then look online to see if that changes. Check the weather for your drive in, for your time there. Even though it's beautiful, you wouldn't want to be there when it's like fire season and it's all smoke and you can't see anything, or if it's raining all week. Check that weather. Be prepared for animals. You're going to see a lot of animals in this area. This is very pristine. It's very difficult to get to. And depending on the time of year you go, when I go through my photo of them, you're going to see, like in May, we saw bear scat all the way down Walker Creek Forest Service Road, almost. In August, we hardly saw any. And so, time of year, you could see a lot of animals. You may not see as many. Porcupines are always going to be there. They chew on the bottom of the cabin. They're going to chew on your stuff if you leave it outside your tent. Just be aware. Do not leave your bikes on the ground. You should probably hang your bikes because those porcupines will chew on your tires. Once you get to the cabin, there's a place to put your bikes and all that kind of thing, and you can put your food in bear lockers that they have there, etc. But just prepare for your trip to make sure you don't get disappointed. So the animals, the bugs, I have a device that I got off Amazon that gives off a scent, and it cuts down quite a bit on the bugs. You might want to bring bug spray, whatever, but be prepared to deal with that. There are a lot of bugs there. Be bear aware. Bring food bags and hang your food. This is an area absolutely necessary. There's a lot of grizzly bears and all kinds of animals here, and you will get into trouble. And porcupines. They will chew your backpack. They'll chew everything. How are you going to keep your important devices powered? I showed you already. I had some battery banks. One thing I also got from Amazon was this solar array kit, this big blue 28 watt. That worked really well because we had some days of sun, and I was able to charge up my battery banks and then take my battery banks during the day, or at least one of them during the day, so I could keep my phone, my inreach charged up nicely. Basically, if you're going to be there for a week, probably if you bring, a big 25,000 milliamp hour battery bank, that's going to be fine. But I brought all of this and it worked out really well. So figure out how you're going to keep your emergency and important devices charged. My main way of route finding was I was using Gaia GPS, and my phone was in offline mode, and I downloaded the offline maps of the area, and I had the GPS coordinates for the trails that I wanted to do. So you definitely are going to need some way to route find. A lot of these trails are growing over and whatnot, and we did get into some sketchy situations where we didn't follow the trail properly, and if you don't, you will get into a sketchy situation. So I'll make another video about that, about actually being at Kakwa and taking some of those hikes. That'll be a separate video, but this is a video about preparation. Bring an emergency communications device. Like I mentioned, I brought my inreach, which uses satellite, so I was able to send status messages to our loved ones. If we had an emergency, I could SOS. Everything worked out, so we didn't have to do that. It's a very remote location, and if you get injured, which is very easy to get injured there, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. You definitely want a way to get a hold of help. There may not be anybody at Kakwa, right? So just be prepared for that. First aid, of course, you'll want to bring some first aid equipment. Bike repair supplies. That's a very important one. So when I talk about being prepared on this trip, we're looking at this map here. And you can see Kakwa Lake up here, and the cabin is, say, there. And the Bastille Bridge is right down here where I'm moving the mouse. And the Buchanan crossing is like somewhere right here. Okay, so I'm going to mention this now. You definitely want to bring a bike, a mountain bike, if you're going to Kakwa. From this point, from Bastille to Buchanan, it's a little bit uphill, but it feels mostly flat. It's very muddy. Probably 50% of this trail, you're going to be underwater and in mud. And when I say underwater, big sections of those muddy trails that where the main road has fallen off into the river, into the McGregor, there's workarounds, quad trails that work around pretty much all of them, but they're filled with water and mud. So depending on what's happened leading up to your journey, if it's been rainy a bit for the last week, they will be filled with mud. I'll show you some pictures of that. Maybe I'll do that right now. So here's a picture of some people driving down Walker Creek, and they talked about how the river had destroyed part of Walker Creek and how it was built up. Here's them biking. This is right at the end where the road is washed out, same area that we parked. There's deadfall in the road. You have to carry your bike over a number of these creeks, especially the Buchanan. That's going to be the hardest one. It's very cold. It's quite deep. It's fast flowing. It's not easy to cross. If you're going to cross before August, it could be a very big challenge. We went the end of June, and it was, I'm 6'2", and it was past my waist, maybe almost getting close to my shoulders deep, and very fast flowing, and the coldest water you've been in. It's more cold than you think, and you'd get hypothermia pretty quickly in that water. But look, talking about the road and biking down that road, I want to show you some pictures from previous years of what people have faced. And let's see here. You can see people hanging their bikes. You don't have to do that at the campsite anymore because they have a shed that you can put your bikes in. But let's see the condition that that road can get in. I think I went past right here. So this is one of those quad trails. You can see it had rained and it's just submerged in this soup, and you're going to get wet going through that stuff. There could be a lot of these. And for the most part, you're going to face that between Bastille and Buchanan, okay? Which is here. And that's, I think that's 12 kilometers. It took us 4 hours to get through this, and you know, probably for you, maybe 3 hours, maybe 2.5. If everything goes perfect and whatever, we had some younger people that slowed us down a bit, but pretty tough ride here, half mud, but the rest of the road is pretty decent. There are some places you'll have to carry your bike over blowdown. We had to, and there's one spot near the first kilometer where there is no road. about 30 feet of just trail that you have to bushwhack your bike through. But there's only one spot as of the making of this video, so if you can get past that, you'll be able to make it to the Buchanan. Once you get to the Buchanan, it's all up a mountain all the way to Kakwa. Now once you get to Wishaw Lake, which is like right here, this lake here, for the most part it's kind of mostly flat until you get close to Kakwa Lake, and then it's all downhill on very, very bumpy, rocky, willowy road. But this here takes many hours to get to Wishaw because it's all up a mountain. But the key thing here is it took us like 9 or 10 hours to get from Bastille Bridge all the way up to Wishaw. But to get back from Kakwa Cabin all the way to Bastille, I think it took us 4 hours, 4.5 hours, because it's all downhill on a bike. So much easier to get back. It's the ride of your life. So just make sure you bring a bike, okay? And make sure when you bring a bike, you want to bring panniers, and that's those side saddle bags that you put on the back of your bike and whatnot. Do not think you're going to put a backpack on your a 50-pound or 40-pound backpack on your back and ride that many hours up a mountain on a bike. That's tough, and everyone who's done it regretted it. I didn't wear a big heavy backpack. My 60-pound backpack I put in a little milk crate that was attached to the back of my bike. I will never do that again. That was even terrible. Pushing that uphill, pushing that through mud, bad idea. Lost a lot of gear on this road, and well, not a lot, but a number of key things, which we found most of it later. I lost my water filter. That was really stupid. And that's the next thing. Bring a water filter. You're going to need a lot of water for this hike. There are a lot of water sources, including on most of the hikes and everything. There's water everywhere along this road. I mean, you're following the river. Once you get to Buchanan and going up, you're not near the McGregor anymore for most of it, but there are a lot of creeks and waterfalls and other streams on the side that you can get water from. And then you get to Wishaw Lake, you get to Muriel Lake and Kakwa. So there's plenty of water along the way. Bring a good water filter and make sure you put it in a safe location, not hanging loosely somewhere. Put it in a critical place in your backpack or something. Bring something for crossing water, for fording over creeks. You want to bring water shoes or something like that. I didn't. I just wore my hiking boots, but a lot of people get blisters. I did this also on our hikes during the day because I had socks that dried really quickly, and I was able to dry out my shoes fairly decently overnight. It worked out for me. I never got any blisters. But I know a lot of people are prone to that, so bring some water shoes so when you cross the creeks and whatnot, whatever your normal thing is for doing larger hikes, bring something, but plan for that. Quick dry pants. For the hike in and out, you want to wear some kind of like water pants that dry really quick, made of vinyl or something, because you're going to get wet. It's a pretty guarantee you're going to get wet, especially crossing the Buchanan. You're going to get wet. There's other creeks to cross as well, but especially the Buchanan. You can't avoid it. Hiking gloves, that's another one. And I'll just grab these. I have these Holmes work gear from Costco. And why would you want to bring gloves like that? When you're pushing your bike and stuff, you'll get blisters on your hands, and mosquitoes will devour your hands and whatnot. Hiking gloves, you'll want to bring them to kind of keep your hands safe from all the brush. Also, when you're riding, there's a lot of willows that smack your hands and your face and whatever, so bring sunglasses, bring a good sun hat, bring gloves, especially when you're hiking on some of these hikes at Kakwa Lake. You'll want gloves for when you're going up scree, sliding down rocks so you don't gash your hands. Very important to bring those. I already talked about bug repellent, sun protection. I don't wear SPF or anything like that. I just wear a big Tilly hat that keeps basically all of my neck and face from getting too much sun, and I didn't have any issues. It worked perfect for me. But whatever your sun protection system is, make sure you prepare for that. Bring spices, fruits, nuts, jerky, beef jerky, electrolyte powder or whatever. So keep yourself, or tablets, keep yourself in good shape out there. Proper bike carrying devices. I talked about panniers. You also want to bring a bike repair kit. We did have to do repairs on bikes. Okay, this trail is not good for a Canadian Tire bike. Okay, it's going to break your bike. My daughter had a Canadian Tire bike, snapped one of her gear cables. We had problems with brakes, all kinds of problems. Also, whatever unit you have that carries the panniers, make sure you bring extra bolts. Make sure you bring little Allen keys or whatever it is to tighten things on your bike. Make sure you bring maintenance items. I bought a little kit. I'm going to show pictures when I go through the photo shoot of what I had, and we had to use it to fix issues with bikes. So bring, also if you pop a tire, bring, extra tube, bring patches and glue and whatever it is, but make sure you bring items that you can do bike repair. Definitely don't want to get into that situation where you're stuck. Minimize your pack weight. I will never go into Kakwa again with more than 40 pounds. Do not pack more than 40 pounds. If you do, you will be sorry. You'll be making a video like this and you'll be saying, do not. So I'm just warning you now, if you go more than 40 pounds, it becomes a massive challenge to push through the mud, to push across Buchanan Creek and other places. It's just not fun. I find 40 pounds and less is quite manageable, and that's my recommendation. So just, you're bringing too much gear if it's more than 40 pounds. I brought too much gear. I brought too much food. I wasn't as experienced. Make sure you don't exceed 40 pounds. Bring a separate day pack. So you can get these cool little things on Amazon or whatever that fold up really small, and it's like a little backpack that's meant for your day hikes. You probably don't want to bring your giant backpack that you used to bring all your equipment into the cabin. So bring a day pack. That's what I did, and I was really glad that I did. I was able to pack just a small amount of food and things for my day hikes, and that made it very pleasant. So pack a day backpack for your daily hikes so you don't have to do your giant one. And they're pretty cheap. I think $15 or $20 on Amazon, and good enough for a day hike. What else? 2 to 3 pairs of good hiking socks. I wouldn't bring more than that. I brought 5 or 6, and it's just a waste of weight and space and everything. 2 to 3 pairs of wool, merino wool, something that dries really quickly. One pair dries overnight, switch to the other pair. 3 pairs I find is the sweet spot. That third pair is sort of emergency extra. 3 pairs of hiking socks, and when you get wet every day, you will get wet on every single hike. There's always something you have to cross and you will get wet. But 2 to 3 pairs of good hiking socks and you'll be good to go. Bring a rain jacket. It's always going to rain at least a day or two. It's just the weather out there. Bring a good rain jacket. Bring cold temperature down jacket. It can get pretty cold. Even in that first week of August, it got really cold a few nights there. And in fact, 2 kilometers before the campsite, I lost my sleeping bag, my water filter. Those are the 2 key things. I think I lost my my gaiters way back on that trail. It's very bumpy. It's very brushy. Other people who brought fishing rods, one person had a section of their rod got snagged by those willows and lost in the bush. Another person lost some things. So you really got to watch. It's really hard when you're trying to pay attention to not die on that rocky, muddy, dangerous road in some sections, that it's hard to pay attention if you've lost something. So anyways, make sure you bring that stuff. For me, when I lost my sleeping bag, I was sketchy. We were in a cabin, but we had the window open, and I guess I could tell everyone, let's close the window, but then everyone else would have been blistering hot, and I would have been just comfortable. That wouldn't have been nice. So the first night, I just had my down jacket, and it made it just tolerable to sleep overnight. I still had a mattress, but I didn't have a sleeping bag. Sleeping bag makes such a big difference. Luckily, someone else had a water filter, so I was able to use theirs. And the next day, I found all my stuff when my daughter and I hiked up this road. We found like Fitbit watches, glasses, all kinds of stuff. I lost a water bottle on this road. My daughter lost a water bottle on this road. People lose all kinds of stuff on this road. You don't mean to. It just claims things from you. So be on the watch when you go on there. Maybe you can find some things there. Anyway, so bring a nice warm down jacket. Some warm winter gloves. Warm socks for when you're at the cabin. You don't want to be wearing shoes all the time. You want to wear comfort shoes when you're at the cabin, separate from your hiking shoes, so you can give your feet a chance to dry out, chill out, get back to normal. Bring a winter hat in case it gets really cold, and you probably want to put that in your day pack. Up on the mountain, it gets really cold in that wind, and if it starts to rain, it could possibly snow. You want to be prepared. So a winter hat, some winter gloves, or warm gloves anyway, and then a sunshade hat, like a Tilly hat or something to protect yourself from the sun and potentially the rain. I find a Tilly hat is that sweet spot, protects you from the rain, protects you from the sun. People don't like how it looks, but it works great. So those are kind of a main list of things to think about to prepare. Let's finish this off here. So we've gone over the Great Divide Trail. We've talked about don't park your vehicle too close to the river or in an area where if you see that water levels rise 8 feet overnight, you could be in trouble. Generally speaking, parking at the Bastille Bridge is pretty safe. It's pretty high up from the river there. I've never seen it flood there. I've seen it flood lower in lower areas, but that's closer to the river, but not there. We also made this daily trip plan. So this was, drive from Prince George to the Walker Creek. How long it'll take, what our average speed is that we estimate. Make a plan so that you know what time you should be arriving at Bastille Bridge, at Buchanan Creek, at Wishaw Lake, or at the cabin, so that if you're falling behind, you might have to camp somewhere on the tote road on the way in. And that's what we did. We hoped to get to the cabin on that first day, but it was about 9 p.m. and we just camped at Wishaw Lake, which was a couple kilometers from the cabin, but it was just getting dark, and I'm glad that we did stop there. So make a plan. You don't have to follow it, but it's really good to give you sort of a framework so you know what kinds of things you can do. You can change plans if the weather's bad, but make yourself a plan. Everyone who's coming, check it out. We made another tab here where we showed equipment that we're going to share, so everybody didn't have to bring first aid, etc., etc. You can bring shared equipment. Now let's get into the photo shoot. So what you're going to see here is a series of pictures from May. Then you're going to see a series of pictures from June. And then you're going to see a series of pictures from when we actually did the trip. Okay? So this was when we first scoped out Kakwa in May. Excuse me. So there's this neat little area on Walker Creek Forest Service Road right when you meet the McGregor River. If you look on the right hand side, there's like this little, bathtub area where the water falls down this rock. You can see a little waterfall here. Really cool. Anyway, as we're driving in, this was where the road meets the McGregor River. These are the mountains you're going to see. You'll see sort of just as it starts to turn towards the east, you'll see this little pyramid peak here. And this was at the end of May. And you can see bear scat. It was all over the road in May. And waterfalls pouring down the mountain. This was on the right-hand side, right near that junction where Walker Forest Road meets McGregor. There's a big waterfall. And then a number of bridges that you cross. Keep your eyes out because from year to year, these bridges could potentially wash out. This is a sort of campsite area, a little ways down after the turnoff heading east. There's a few of these, and this is, I'm going to say 10 feet above the river level here. Pretty safe area to park. Pretty muddy. You can see that when we went in May, it was very wet and muddy on that day. That's me driving my truck, checking it out. This was the very first time we went down Walker Creek Forest Service Road. You can see the river here. That's the McGregor. You can see some more bear scat there. Here's the first time we saw the avalanche on the road. So we had already passed it, and you can see here how it veers off on this side. So we're heading east, and I'm facing back towards the west. So it's totally covering the road. And that was back in May. And you can see sinkholes here. Generally speaking, people have put in these ribbons there to warn you. If you see a ribbon, pay attention. It's probably something to watch out for. Here's the beaver pond. Found a license plate there. I returned it to the RCMP in Prince George. But yeah, you'll have to drive through that beaver pond. It was there all year, by the way, even in August. And we went in May, and there was still snow. It was a bit more sketchy, honestly. We were the first car. And we got to this point where there are 2 sinkholes on both sides of the road. It took me 10 minutes to get courage to drive past this. I was seriously thinking of turning around, but we made it through. And just looking across the valley towards Kakwa, beautiful snow-covered mountains. Here's that sinkhole again. And now we made it all the way to the Buchanan Bridge. So we're on the bridge looking down, and there's this area here that you can park. This water here is just from the rain. It just collects there in these muddy spots, but generally a pretty safe area to park. A lot of people park here and put their chicken wire. So this is where we went. And there's the Buchanan, the Bastille Bridge. And you can see it goes quite a bit high up. They built this bridge higher up so that it'll never get washed out. It's very well built. I'm sure it'll be there for years to come. It's on solid foundation, and unless the creek is enormously higher, I think it'll be there for a while. And we're on the bridge looking towards this mountain. These are the sort of mountains that you see from the Buchanan Bridge. So if you ever see that when you're hiking, you know you're close to the Buchanan. And this is the river here. And again, this is back in May, looking, I believe, northward, looking towards the east. And as you go over the bridge, it forks. It continues going directly east, and the main road turns to the left. And when you go left, you'll see eventually the sign. We walked down this road. We parked at the Bastille and walked here, and we saw this washout sign and lots of deadfall. And just for a long, long distance, many, many trees. The next time we came in June, someone had cleared this all out, which was very cool because then we were able to drive a lot further when we went in August. So this is now the road where it hits the McGregor again after crossing the Bastille Bridge. So here to the left is a little back eddy. It's all dry this time of year. And further over this land area, that's the McGregor. But the McGregor comes right up into this area. And so you go down, and this is the back eddy. So the road is off to the right. This is actually where the river flows when it's higher. You can see the area that the river flows in sometimes, and you can see both. So here's the back eddy, here's the main road. And because they built the road so close to the river, that's why sections have washed out, unfortunately. And here's a better view, the back eddy area and the road. So you can go down there a ways. There's a washout in just a little bit, but you can get through that washout with 4x4 and probably save yourself 1.5 kilometers maybe or something after Bastille Bridge, and you can park there. That's what we did. So here's me parked at the bottom of the Bastille Bridge, and not sure why there's a barrel of diesel there, but there was. And just looking across the valley at some beautiful sights on the way home. We saw this area near Pummel Mountain, and it intrigued us, and in a following trip we checked it out. And I have a video talking about Pummel Mountain hike. You can check that out in my YouTube channel. This would have been, I guess, in June of 2021. Here's the one and only wooden bridge. Has this 5-ton sign on it. All the other ones have been replaced with concrete bridges, but this one is still wooden. Be very careful when you cross this one. There are some rot areas and some holes starting to form there, so just want to point that out. And this is that 1.5 to 2 foot drop in the road. So pictures just don't do it justice, but you can tell the ribbons warn you about it. And just one of those bridges you cross over creeks, showing a mountain there. This is the license plate I found. And here's me driving through the Beaver Pond on Walker Creek Forest Service Road.
Well, here's Mark giving the truck a car
Just
wash.
to give some perspective as to how deep it was. This was in May. Okay. And this is the boat launch where Walker Creek meets the McGregor. Right on the left, you'll see kind of this little area that backs into the river, and pretty deep in May. Because you'll see my pictures, I think, in June or in August, where this is all sand here. So quite a bit deeper in May. This is part of the drive down Walker Creek. There's me parked at Bastille Bridge. And this is us, I think, checking out a bear. Many bears in May. Many, many bears. So this was another time that we came down. This would be in June now. And we actually took we did some jet boating up and down the McGregor, just investigating the area a bit more. And here we were on this back eddy. This was before we knew that the river levels could go up and down quite a bit. We researched later and found out, do not park in a spot like this. But of course we were coming back same day. But if you get stuck somewhere and the river level climbs, you could be in more trouble. So this is sort of a back eddy area near the McGregor, which is right there. And here we are going up the river, checking out the area. Beautiful views. You can see in the morning it was really like rainy, cloudy. You can see like a lot of sloughing off of the terrain into the river. And because the road was built right beside the river, any of those areas like this, they just disappeared. Beautiful views later on in the day. The sun starts to come out. This is going up the McGregor River. At a certain point, if you head towards Kakwa, you hit this extremely fast rapids and you just can't go any further. I don't think any boat would be able to get past this. It's very dangerous and very steep on both sides. And a lot of neat pictures. We were just jet boating around the area, checking things out. Heading towards, I think, Dimsdale Mountain. And Kitchie would be on the right and Dimsdale would be on the left. Beautiful Dimsdale Glacier. Really nice up there. Absolutely gorgeous. Definitely an area I'd like to hike. But pretty hard to get to as well. And this is heading upstream towards Kakwa, and there's this nice plateau here, and then just these giant ecosystems up there. So many areas to check out and hike. Beautiful area. On the one hike that we went, I had these hip waders, and we went up to the Buchanan River to see how deep it was, and it was right up to there on me. So, and I'm 6'2", so it was very deep in May. Pretty deep in June as well. So end of July, beginning of August is the time to go. So here we are heading down again. Here's that boat launch at the connector to the McGregor, where Walker Creek meets the McGregor. And here's that bathtub area again. So this is the weekend we stayed a couple nights. You can see it was really hot. The sun was blazing. The road was really dry. There's the landslide again. So it's now in June, end of June. You can see road conditions. Water levels a lot higher. There's the bump in the road. Big drop. There's the two sinkholes. Pretty deep. Definitely don't want to get your tires in there. You're going to belly up. River's just blaring down, just like overflowing under the bridges. Lots of cute animals. And here's that view we saw towards Pommel Mountain. Absolutely gorgeous there. Now it's melting and looking gorgeous, so we checked it out. Continued to drive. Getting close. Now we're on the, I think this was on the Bastille Bridge. And this is where we camped out. We saw a moose in the clearing there. Pretty neat. Set up the tent. Camped overnight. Oh, and let's take a quick look. Chicken wire around the truck. Absolutely essential. Here's the Bastille Bridge. Very well built. Very solid on concrete footings and pretty high up as well. So just to show where the pilings and everything are. And this is the next day. We got ready and we're checking out the river, heading upstream towards the Buchanan to see what it looks like. Getting familiar with the mountains, you can see the water gets choppier as you go upstream. A lot choppier. And this is where I think the to the left here is towards Kakwa, and this is the Buchanan area to the right.
All right,
a video
so we're
clip
at the
showing
fork
that.
here. So Kakwa is up that way. This is the McGregor River. That's where the Buchanan connects, and that's where the GDT is.
So that's the Buchanan
So
there. And some mountains around the area. You see this rounded mountain with the little peak? You know you're close to the Buchanan crossing. And this is the Buchanan. The old bridge is like way up there. I'm looking towards the west. You come down. It was overflowing with water here in June. That's the old bridge that was washed out. Here's a sign that tells you you're about to enter Kakwa. And just across this river is where the GDT continues. And you will not be able to easily cross this in May or June. Just horrifically difficult to cross. Hypothermia, fast flowing, terrible to cross. You'll see in my video where I show in August a different picture. So much water here at this time of year. And there's the park boundary. You can look to the right and you'll see a log with the park boundary sign there. And we looked upstream, we looked downstream. There was no safe place to cross in May or June. We put up this wire,
so that's the
a rope,
over there from
in
GDT.
hopes that if someone did want to cross, maybe it would help them. We were told later that it actually did help people cross.
It's a feeble
That
attempt.
was nice. And you could see the water level was so high this weekend, it was overflowing into the forest and flowing back out again. This is from the McGregor River heading upstream towards, or heading downstream now, I believe, towards Pommel Mountain, because we had gone up to Buchanan. That was one goal, and then we wanted to check out Pommel. So now this is heading up the creek towards that waterfall area of Pommel Mountain. And we started hiking. We saw those waterfalls. We had to check it out. Gorgeous. Absolutely stunningly gorgeous. It was a real treat to get up there. I know I'm diverging. I'm talking about preparation. But when you see these other sites, I'm trying to get the message across. You want to explore the area a little bit before you invest a week there, just so you get to know it. And this was us checking out Pommel. And Mount Alexander is behind these guys to the right, which is Mount Sir Alexander's, the largest mountain north of Mount Robson. It's the biggest mountain in this area. It's giant. And this is still these waterfalls near Pommel. Here's us in this avalanche meadow area at the top, looking back. And I guess on that mountainside is where Walker Creek Forest Service Road would be. That's where our original pictures, we were able to see through a clearing up to this waterfall area, and that's why we came here to check it out. So if you want to see more details, I have a video describing all of that. Let's move on. Here's us driving back. There's the landslide. And that area, that bathtub area that had almost no water flowing, had this giant waterfall gushing down within 24 hours. And that's the kind of change you can see in this area. In 24 hours, you can see water levels drastically rise. And there's that boat launch. It had risen quite a bit in 12 hours. And I prepared myself for the hike. I hiked up these random places, different hikes leading up to my time at Kakwa to condition my body. This was Longworth Mountain here. Hiked up with the Caledonia Ramblers up to Longworth. Quickly zip past these, but just to say, condition your body. Get yourself prepared. Don't just go into Kakwa and without having prepared yourself physically and mentally by going on some other harder hikes, because you're not going to enjoy your time there unless you're gotten yourself into better shape. So this is still Longworth. Quickly zip past this. Viking Ridge was another one I hiked up to condition myself leading up to it. You want to get yourself back into the groove. And so we also did Mount Robson. This was after they closed the trail after Kinney Lake. And you can see here, these are new areas that were flooded out from that same flooding we experienced. But this is at Mount Robson. You can see how the river just all over the trail there at one point. And Mount Robson. So I'm just pointing this out to say, prepare yourself. Now, you also want to have some food. I don't know how much food you eat, but I found I packed far too much food. I think I had 30 pounds of food. You don't want 30 pounds of food. Yes, you want to prepare for contingency, but that's quite a bit. So figure out what works for you. Go on some weekend camping trips and find out how much food you use, over a couple days, and multiply that for the period of time you're going to be there. And just showing me going on hikes with the dog. Now, preparing your bike. So we set up these racks on the back. We tried different things. What can we hook up to it? We wanted to put our backpack there. Ratchet straps would not work. This is what I settled on. I got a milk crate, bought this from a hardware store. They sell these at Home Hardware or other hardware stores. And then bungee cords. And bring extras, because these will stretch out as you bang over those rocks and whatever. Bring some extras with you, but I found this held it in fairly tight. As long as your pack doesn't exceed 40 pounds, this might work, but better than this is using those panniers. But this worked as well. But bring repair items. Like I lost a bolt where this rack connected down to the bottom. And because of one of the other people in the group had an extra screw, that we were able to screw that in and fix it. But if I didn't, I would have been in trouble. So bring enough items for repair, and this is what we ended up with. So all these bungee cords. We brought some emergency equipment, a come along, some tow rope and whatnot in case we got stuck. Bring items, prepare for it. That road is not forgiving. It will pound your truck to pieces. And the willows do overhang the road. You will get a lot of scratching from those willows. You can't avoid it. So this is the day now where we actually went on the hike. So just before you see this, a scenic welcome to the Robson Valley sign, shortly after that, when you're driving from Prince George is where you turn off to the Walker Creek Forest Service Road. Here we are checking out the hot tub area once again. No water flowing. Here's the big dip in the road. Here's the washout after Bastille. We kept driving, and we drove about 1.5 kilometers until the road literally disappeared into McGregor. And it was about, I'm going to say, maybe 6 to 8 feet higher than the river here. And so we parked off to the side, and that worked for us. You can see the conditions here were smoky on that day. So pretty hard to control that when there's forest fires, but it had cleared up a couple days later. So here's us parking. We parked the truck on the side there. There's the McGregor. Like I said, it's about 6 feet down. And as we started to ride our bikes, maybe 0.5 kilometer to 1 kilometer down the road, we had to walk through this section manually here because there's no side trail. And 30 feet and you get to the other side, you had to carry your bike and everything. We did see a couple who, husband and wife or something, who maybe went 1 or 2 kilometers down the road, and they said, the road is just terrible. We had to carry our bikes over logs and down this, and they turned back. If they had only gone a little further, it would have worked out for them. Here's what the road looks like after that difficult area. A lot of the road is like this. Again, from Bastille to Buchanan, 50% is like this. The other 50% is muddy and watery. So it's a mix of both. And here's us getting water, using our water filters along the way. And in the background, in this particular area, there's a snowmobiler's cabin. That's where this particular creek crossing is. Once you see the snowmobiler's cabin, you're very close to the Buchanan River crossing. And here we are at the Buchanan, much lower. All of this was covered in water from the previous pictures we saw. Quite a bit lower, so we crossed down here by the logs, which was the best area to cross by far. Wasn't as deep. Still difficult to cross. There's that rope we had put there from back in May. But you can see where there was water here before, no water this time of year. So here's us after crossing the Buchanan on the main road. Very, very willowy and brushy and smoky. Various bridges to cross. Thankful that they were there. You can see my pack. You just had to drop it on the side every time we took a break. It was tough. Never again would I do 60 pounds. Here we are at Kakwa Lake. When we arrived, very smoky. They have pit toilets there. They did have toilet paper in the red plastic bins. Here's a little fire pit area. Here's a dock. The boat is there only for the host. Guests are not allowed to use that boat for insurance reasons. A little camper's tent pad area. If the cabin is full, people can set up their tents on these pads. Caught some fish when we were there. Cooked them up in the fire pit. Porcupines. So this is taken right at the woodshed where you chop wood. That's where we saw this little guy. And you'll hear him chew on the bottom of the cabin at night. So this is all about preparation. We'll talk about the hikes later. But this was us going on the hike towards Babette Lake. There's a bridge that's washed out, and just showing the depth of the water here. Bring water shoes or whatever system you use to ford over creeks. Make sure you're prepared for that so you're not always wet, getting blisters and whatever. And here you can see the bridge washed out. And heading up to Babette Lake. The other trail forks here, goes towards Jarvis Lakes in Alberta. We did see a couple guys who had come from Alberta. They said it was terrible to come that way. 50 kilometers through mostly mud. So definitely difficult to come from the Alberta direction. This is still headed towards Babette. Lots of bridges and stuff. Getting closer. And you're going to cross creeks like this. This was pretty low. This is why you want to go in August. I would hate to see this in May or June. It'd be much deeper. You'd be getting a lot more wet. But beautiful waterfalls, amphitheater views. Gorgeous here. Hiking up. Bring tent poles. Bring hiking poles. My two companions didn't bring it for this hike, and think it would have made it easier for them. They were a lot more tired than I was after this hike and a lot of the others. Bring hiking poles, guys. It's just going to give you more energy. You're going to enjoy your time. If you hate hiking poles, fair enough, but I highly recommend it. This is the kind of view you're going to get at Babette Lake. And you can see, prepare yourself if it's smoky, right? Might want to skip a day and just have a zero effort day where you stay at the cabin and go fishing or something like that if it's smoky or rainy out, but you don't want to waste your whole time there. Lots of gorgeous glaciers and waterfalls here. Big rocks like this. This is why you want to bring your gloves, right? For stuff like this. You're reaching on the boulders, and when you're sliding down on rocks, you're going to cut your hands and stuff like that. It's really good to bring those gloves for when you need them. This is a view going up towards Mount Ian Munro, looking down on Babette Lake. We'll get more into these pictures when I talk about the actual hikes, but I'm just trying to show the conditions. And bugs. That's a giant black fly on my 1 liter water bottle. There were flies even at the summit of Mount Ian Munro, so prepare yourself for bugs. And here's my hiking pole. Loved hiking poles. By the way, I only discovered hiking poles about 2 or 3 months ago, and it's a game changer for me. You can see the kind of terrain you have to hike on. Pretty steep, pretty rocky. When we slid down here, the other guys kind of dashed their hands a bit. This was a sketchy area that we came down and we didn't follow the route you're supposed to come down. Do not go down this. This is how you get killed, guys. I'm not going to go through the story on this, but we almost had serious injury here because we didn't follow the route. To prepare for this trip, get the GPS coordinates, follow the route, follow it, and you'll avoid heartaches and possible injury. Especially if it's raining out or something. We had to go down this when it was wet, would have been disaster. And beautiful meadows. Mount Ian Munro is up there. We'll come down the backside. Lots of berries here. So if you come at the right time of year, these were huckleberries, there's blueberries, right there. And lots of fishing. Bring a fishing rod. We had great luck on the dock catching fish there. Lots of good sized trout. Bring the right kind of lures. I didn't catch any fish, but one of our companions caught a fair number, so that was good. So this is now, next day. Smoke's clearing out, getting some good views. Sun up at about 6 or 6:30. I think it was 6:30, first week of August. Here's my solar system. And I put it down here on the shore so that the glare off the lake would further put more solar into my panel. Plugged my items in, charging them up in the morning. This is the crossing you're going to cross anytime you go towards Mount Ruth or La Glace Lake. Any GDTers, this is the last crossing you have to do. This is the mouth of the Kakwa Lake. And I think it's Wapamum Lake is off to the right. So Wapamum Lake flows into Kakwa Lake, and this is where you have to cross to get to the cabin. And this is on the GDT. You can see my daughter crossing there. And this is on Mount Ruth. Beautiful views. You'll want to bring, I guess to prepare, probably a good idea to bring binoculars. You get to see a lot more, and maybe gives you some ideas for hikes, ad hoc hikes you might want to do if you see something really special like a cave or a waterfall you want to check out. I brought binoculars, and it was just a gorgeous view from Mount Ruth to see things. And hiking poles, like I said, me and my daughter had them, and it's definitely worth it. And super steep here. Watch yourself on these hikes. Can be pretty dangerous. Snow up on top, and there was caribou dung up here on this snow, so that was interesting. It's pretty fresh. This is looking on the east side from Mount Ruth into some lakes back there, and just a panoramic view from on Mount Ruth. And what's this? This is me showing the crossing on the GDT getting across Kakwa Lake. Anyways, get yourself a water crossing system and bring some spices, maybe some cayenne, some salt and pepper, whatever you like for fish if you're going to do any fishing. We wish we had brought more. It was really a real treat. And this is just some other creeks on the way to La Glace Lake. You're going to get wet, like I said. Really deep meadows. When I say deep, I'm 6'2", and this was over my head in some sections, especially here, and narrow. More crossings.
It's pseudo deep here.
Towards La Glace Lake. So just prepare for that stuff, guys. Again, my solar system to charge up my battery pack. This was up at La Glace Lake. Had those hiking gloves on and just hiking up on the rocks and everything. Lots of water to cross. Big meadows, and off in the distance there, that's Mount Sir Alexander. When you're on the way to La Glace Lake, you get to this big meadow, and you look over there, and on the right you have like Wishaw Mountain, and just you can really see Sir Alexander. So you can zoom in and get some nice pictures. Heading towards La Glace. This is the big amphitheater that flows into La Glace. Here's where you cross if you want to walk around La Glace Lake. There's some logs further up here you can cross over. And some ice caves up there that we checked out, but we didn't go inside them. Too dangerous. You can see what it looks like. Type of terrain. And heading again towards Babette Lake. This is my daughter crossing. Taking her shoes off. Strawberries to eat. Almost done. This is Babette Lake. I checked out the lake with my daughter on the last day. And that's looking towards that big waterfall we saw earlier. Really nice lake. Looking at Mount Ian Monroe, the peak. That's where we hiked on the first day. And heading towards Babette Lake, you come across this giant tree you have to climb over. So you don't want to bring your bikes, not for that anyway. I wouldn't take it up here anyway because you can't really hike up there with a bike on the mountain. And here's the bathroom pit toilet. Toilet paper's in that plastic thing. Just take the lid off and keeps it dry in case of rain. Again, the fire pit. Kakwa Lake. And just showing on the last day, this was my system. I put my backpack in the crate and I bungee corded it down. It was really hard to navigate with that much weight on here. And you can see the little black thing on my bike. That was my bike repair kit. It's a little kit I bought from a hardware store. Has all the Allen key wrenches and tube repair kits and glue and different things, which we actually needed to fix some things on our bikes. So bring a little kit for your bikes, you know, repairing tubes and gears and bolts that come off and stuff. These were my nylon kind of pants, my splash pants or whatever you want to call them. It was definitely the way to go for a hike like this. You don't want to bring pants that take forever to dry. Just bring some nylon pants for your day hikes. Good enough. If it rains, you know, they'll dry quick. You're going to cross your creeks. It's going to dry quick. That's what you want to do. And my Tilly hat, keeping the sun off and the rain off. This quick picture, this is the campsite at Muriel Lake. Nothing special to look at, but there it is. That's Muriel Lake. And on our day out, the smoke had come back. Porcupines, right on the road, on Walker Creek Forest Service Road. And here's us heading down. It was the ride of our lives. Really glad I brought that bike sort of repair kit thing that I got from the hardware store. There's the basket bungeed up. Here's a little pump so you can pump your tire. These plastic things are to take the tire off so you can put on a new tube. Little universal wrenches that work for all the different sized bolts on any bike. Allen key kit, and then tire patch kit. Probably the only other thing I would say is to bring like an extra tire tube or something. But definitely got to prepare. And that was the last picture I had, guys. So I know this video went long, but I just feel there's so much to go over to prepare for a trip like this. All depends on your style. I'm the kind of guy that says, let's prepare for that trip. Let's make it the best we can. And you know what? We had a fantastic time. Even though a lot of surprises came up, like we had bike problems, we lost my water filter and lost my sleeping bag and stuff. We had contingency plans and they worked out. So hope this video is helpful to you. I hope if you're planning to go to Kakwa, you have a great time. I do believe I will be going back to this place. There's so much to explore here. It's a fantastic place. It's not highly traveled, so you're not going to bump into a whole bunch of people. I personally like areas like that. And so yeah, have yourself a great time and see you in the